All right, there we go. Bennett, take your hat off, please, and do prayer for us. I think we can get
Am I
started.
doing prayer?
I'm sorry?
Am I doing prayer?
Yeah, why don't you do it?
All right. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now at the hour of our death. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Done.
Okay, guys, we've got 3 weeks left, right? Three weeks exactly, including today. If I've sent some of you guys a little love note, so just make sure. Brian, do you have your video or no? See you, Brian. It's been real. Okay, so just make sure that you're caught up with all your stuff. For the most part, it looks like you guys are okay right now. We're going to have one more test. That test will take in lieu of a final exam. You guys have probably heard by this point, but you guys aren't going to have any type of exams of any kind.
That's nice.
You guys know that, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
If we have an AP exam at 2 on May 12th, do we have to go to our classes that day?
I'm not sure what the policy is with that this year.
Because I know I haven't.
So that would be your last day of class for this class.
Yeah, and I have an AP exam at 2 that day.
I just know that probably that week or that weekend we'll be taking a test in this class on civil liberties. That's our last unit. So we'll be taking on civil liberties and then we'll be done. We got 2 quizzes left and 1 test, and we're done.
2 quizzes and a test, sir, in 5 classes?
If we can manage it.
Sure.
And then won't be during the class. I mean, we got 1 quiz that will be this weekend, and I'm going to give you guys the words for that. But that'll be this weekend, and then we got 1 test, and those tests don't take place, and quizzes don't take place during the classes, so that makes it that much more possible. And it's more than 5 classes, isn't it? It's so 3 weeks.
No,
It's 6.
Week 2 next week.
because the third week we only have that Monday and Tuesday. You only have 2 classes. There's only 5 classes, right?
Let's see. I think it's 7 classes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 classes.
Then who
Sir.
told me that?
You're not thinking.
Walker, how do I
Who's
Brock.
that?
That's Brock, sir.
That's Brock.
What are you
Okay.
talking on?
Okay.
I'm not sure. Hey, you.
All right. Yago, you got Benedictine stuff?
You're on mute.
I'm not at my house right now, so I don't have any internet there, so I went to my grandparents so I could do it.
Oh,
Okay.
goodbye, Diego.
All right. Diego, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to watch the video. I'll see you later.
Okay.
All right. So,
He was presentable.
he looked, I guess, somewhat presentable. Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna put up the question for today, and we'll go ahead and get started with that. And so here's the there. So you should just go to that Google Doc, and I'll put up the question that we're considering today. We're entering a new unit. That unit is on civil liberties.
Sir, can I rejoin on my computer?
Yeah,
I have trouble opening the doc.
that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, thanks for letting me know.
Anybody able to open the doc?
I got one about the
Jack, you
flag.
able to find that shirt?
Yeah, I told you. I got it on.
No, not the. Oh, okay. I forgot that you found that. Okay.
So the link brought me to the old warm up.
Yeah, it bumped to the old one.
Okay, so well, I've already checked you guys on that one. So you can erase that warm up and just use your old box and answer the new question.
What's the new question?
The new question is this.
No, dude. I hate this.
So I want you to think about what our civil liberties are. And in fact, you can, So just go ahead and write down what you think our civil liberties are. Just another word for this might be our rights. Any rights that you think that we have.
Wait, can you resend the link? It doesn't show up for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just going to look to see what you guys are saying.
Sir,
Yeah.
if you have a right to vote, why can it be taken away? Doesn't make any sense.
Are you talking about if you commit a crime?
Yeah.
No, that's a good point of discussion. I think that there's a lot of people that would say that it shouldn't be.
It should be a privilege then
Okay. It should be a privilege.
to vote.
Okay. Well, if it's a privilege, then I think you're arguing that it should be taken away. You guys know who Mama Sloan is? Who is that? Yeah, I'm not letting them in. All right, so I'm going to look at what a few of you guys have put for this. We got a few answers here. Freedom of speech, religion, economic life. What do you mean by that, Jack? Economic life? Or is it just economic? You got to unmute yourself. There you go.
I meant the economic and life is supposed to be like separated. It's supposed to be like economic freedom.
Okay, economic freedom. Okay, economic freedom. And what do you think that is?
I mean, you can make as much money as you want in America, unlike some other countries where like the government will maximize you and take a lot of it. But you can, I mean, you're free to, if you make your money legally, make how much ever you want to. You know what I mean?
Matthew, I'm not seeing anything for you right now. What's going on here? Is it just too slow right now? Say it again.
I don't know, but I'm typing right now.
Okay. Malcolm says freedom of speech, religion, assembly, property ownership. Malcolm, what's your argument for you think everybody has the right to own property?
Yeah, I mean, like, 'cause as long as you pay for, like, as long as you pay tax and stuff for, like, for that house, I mean, I feel like can't nobody really say anything about, like, your own property. Like, it's yours.
Okay, so you think even if so I think what I heard you say was assuming you can afford it.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, assuming you can afford it. Other ones, Drew, you said freedom of speech, freedom of religion. Yeah, both Brendan, you and Drew try to think of a few more. Let's see, Griffith, a few amendments in our Constitution that state our rights. Which ones are you thinking about?
The First Amendment, and then the right, everybody, like the 6th and 7th, I think, for the speedy public and civil trials.
Okay. Lorenz, what do you think is the most important? I know you're kind of new to the party, but what would you say is the most important out of all these?
I think mine is. What are we talking? I'm sorry, I'm confused.
You are confused. This was the old warm-up, Chief. We're talking about rights.
I don't think the Supreme Court should be allowed. I don't.
That's old. That's old. Drew, what do you think?
What was the question, sir?
What might be our most important right?
Probably freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech? Explain.
Because if we didn't have that, then like our country is based around what the people want, and if we didn't have that, then like that kind of ruined the whole point of what our country is based around.
Okay. Let me ask you kind of a follow-up question. This can kind of go to anybody. Do you feel as though our rights to a certain extent are limited now?
Maybe not legally, but probably like just within society. Like if somebody doesn't agree with you, then they'll try to back their point and talk down on your point. Or
Things
people
are
don't.
contentious for sure now, but I'm more talking about the coronavirus situation. In what ways are our rights limited now?
We
Can't
can't.
go outside.
We can't really go outside, really.
We technically shouldn't handshake with our friends.
Yeah, and you know in a lot of places here you can't even legally go outside. Restrictions are greater in places like New York City and California, and actually gathering in groups of 10. But why are we okay with that?
It's for a common good.
Because we understand what the good is. It's not saying, hey, you can't congregate in groups of 10 because you may worship some god, or you may protest or talk badly about the government. A North Korea type restriction and something that North Korea might do. So, for those reasons, we're okay with giving up certain rights. It was a lot like how things changed after September 11th. We were okay with more extensive checks at airport security and whatnot after September 11th. So this is all part of what we're going to be discussing, what we're going to be talking about in this next unit. And there's a lot of provocative questions that kind of go along with that. So thank you for those of you who participated in the warm-up. If you didn't get a chance to do that, if the computer was slow or whatnot, just make sure that you, at some point today, get that in so you get participation points for today. Let's see. We're gonna go back to that screen here. All right, so Malcolm, could you do me a favor and read that statement at the bottom there? Malcolm, this one down here.
I can't see it. It just says Coach Walker has started. Oh, never mind. I see it now. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and petition the government for the redress of grievances.
Okay. And so, which one of these, Malcolm? So we've got 5 to be exact freedoms listed here. Which one do you think is especially limited now?
I feel like the freedom of people to people to assemble.
Yeah, assembling. We can't do more than 10 people at a time. But again, we're okay with that just because of the circumstances. But you can see, just based off this conversation, how the changing of just one of these can drastically affect our lives, right? So that's part of the discussion today. Okay, so we will start by talking about just kind of introducing and kind of getting our feet wet with this conversation by talking about inalienable rights. What does unalienable rights mean? Bennett, when you think about unalienable rights, what might that be referring to?
Like non-citizens' rights. Like what do they get? I don't know.
People that aren't citizens, where are you taking that from?
Aliens.
Okay, so good root word there, aliens. Any other clues? CJ, what do you think? You're muted.
Can you repeat it? I was getting paper.
What is unalienable rights? What are those referring to?
Like rights every citizen has.
Rights every citizen has. Rights that literally cannot be taken away from you for any reason whatsoever. Okay, so correct. All right, so the first question is, what does the Constitution guarantee? What is guaranteed within the Constitution? Guarantees a couple things. One is, and this is going to be a big part of our conversation, is civil liberties. And this is protecting citizens from government actions, things like freedom of speech, things like freedom of religion. All or those things are civil liberties. It's protecting, it's government or government essentially tying its hands in certain areas and saying, hey, we can't interfere with religion. You are free to believe what you want to believe. You are free to think what you want to think. So First Amendment rights might be an example of that. The other one is going to be civil rights. And when we say civil rights, what is that referring to? Castanian, what might civil rights be?
People can't attack you for something you can't control.
Okay,
like
so
your skin color.
So who is protecting those? Who is making sure that people are not attacking you because of your skin color?
The government.
The government, right. So while civil liberties are protecting citizens from government actions, this is positive acts by the government to seek to make constitutional guarantees a reality for all. So this is the government protecting you from citizens, okay, or from citizen action. So a big example with this is going to be discrimination. You cannot discriminate against other people. And again, with this COVID situation, are certain people being discriminated against?
Yes.
How?
Like old people aren't supposed to, like, they're kind of, you know what I mean? Like they're not supposed to go anywhere.
They're not, yeah. So older people, well, they're putting that, they're kind of blanket saying that to everybody, right? There's this idea that in the future they might let up things a little bit. But think about this, Jack. How do stores discriminate?
They can't limit a certain amount of people.
You're limiting to a certain amount of people. What else?
You can't enter if you don't have a mask.
Yeah, in some cases you can't enter if you don't have a mask. But what about? But you can do something about that. You can go get a mask, right?
Mhm.
What's there's a difference between me not letting Chris Yago into class because he's not wearing a Benedictine shirt, as opposed to not letting Malcolm in the class because he's black, right? That wouldn't be
Mhm.
right. So what other things are stores doing to discriminate against other groups of people?
was gonna say like some people are allowed to keep their job and some people are like forced to resign.
Explain, Drew. How's that working?
Like some people like I mean I don't really know like the whole technical aspects of it, but I know that some people aren't allowed to go to work, whereas others are allowed to go to work.
So people who are at risk, right? And
Yeah.
that's more of like looking out for their health. But yeah,
Mhm.
there's that. But there's also between 7 and 8 in the morning, who can go to Food Line?
Old people.
Yeah.
Seniors.
Yeah. So that is discrimination. Why does nobody have a real problem with it? Well, because they're looking out for the older people. And so, if there's something that's for the community good, typically people don't have a problem with it. But in crisis situations, we always see some sort of restriction of our rights. And this is a classic example. All right. So where does our freedom begin? Where does our freedom end? Really, the discussion could end right then and there if we're discussing civil liberties. We wouldn't have to really have the conversation. The far more provocative question isn't what our rights are, but where do our rights end? Where do things stop? And so the big answer to that question is it's difficult to say. And the idea is that when other people's rights or other people's freedoms end up being impacted in the process. So that's one way we determine that. So, for example, Matthew Sylvia couldn't go into a theater and say certain words. What certain words could if Matthew Sylvia is going into a theater, what could Matthew Sylvia not say?
There's a fire.
Yeah, he could not shout out the word fire, right? He could not shout out the word fire. If Matthew Sylvia and Jack Anderson, or sees Jack Anderson in an airport, he couldn't shout across the airport, "Hi, Jack," right? That would not be legal. That would not be legal. And I'm citing that because that actually has happened, and people have gotten arrested for that because what was said was misconstrued, and rightfully so. So when other people's freedoms are impacted, in other words, Malcolm Bridges, you have the right to swing your fists, right? But your right to swing your fists ends when?
Wait, say it again.
You have the right to swing your fists, but when does the right to swing your fists? When does that stop?
So does that make the punch?
As soon as you hit somebody, right? So you can walk around swinging your fists all day long, but as soon as you hit somebody else, then your rights have ended. And so we're going to get into all sorts of things like what is obscene and what isn't, right? Is it okay for Alex Kastanian to just kind of give up altogether instead of, what he's wearing now, start walking around openly naked in front of everybody in the world to see, okay? Like,
Sir, that's just his birthday suit.
that would very clearly violate lots of people's rights in the process of him doing that. All right, so again, fire, the picture down here meaning like you can't listen to music above a certain decibel level in many neighborhoods or on the road. Has anybody ever gotten pulled over for that, for listening to music too loud?
Jonah has.
Jonah has? That doesn't surprise me. I think the person in this chair could easily be Jonah.
Are you saying it because he's small?
He's slouched. I don't know. It just seems like a Jonah thing to do.
Mhm.
All right. So when security is at stake. So our freedoms end when security is at stake. And so right now we're in a crisis. We're in a situation where security might be at stake. And so nobody has a problem with taking certain measures to make sure. And because of the complexity in determining this, this can lead to conflict in several areas. One area, our rights versus our rights, our freedoms versus the government maintaining security. And just to give you an example of this, a few years ago, there was, of course, we had this issue with ISIS, and there ended up being people from ISIS cropping up in different parts of the globe. You guys remember all those videos a few years back of ISIS taking people into the desert and chopping their heads off and all that stuff? Just nod. Okay, yeah. So it was kind of there was some mass hysteria as a result of that, and so there ended up being kind of copycat people, and there was a copycat or ISIS sympathizer in San Bernardino, California, and who perpetrated a mass shooting. And in this mass shooting, he ended up getting, I think it was a couple, they ended up getting shot, both of them, and killed. And the police, or excuse me, the FBI ended up confiscating their phones off of their dead bodies. And so if you're the FBI and you have their iPhone, who do you contact to try to access that iPhone?
Apple.
Yeah, because Apple, if they don't have the technology, they have the wherewithal to create that technology. Do you guys remember this story?
I do.
What ended up happening, CJ?
Oh, I don't remember like the Apple part, but I remember the shootings and like the conspiracies about them.
Yeah, so
Apple didn't let them get in the iPhone.
right, Apple wouldn't let them. The FBI asked, the U.S. government asked, "Hey, give us the wherewithal to access this technology," and Apple just straight up refused. They said, "No, we're not, opening Pandora's box with that." And the government basically said, "Well, if you're not going to do it for us, we're going to figure out how to do it." They were successful in doing that. They ended up figuring it out and creating that technology. All right. So the question is, freedom is good, security is better. That's what Thomas Hobbes said. Do you think that's an accurate statement? Brennan, do you think that's accurate? Why?
If there's no security, then like it's unsafe.
Okay, but you don't have any freedom.
Touche.
Come on, man. Give me a little bit more than that.
I don't know.
Now, just get off your phone for a second and answer the question.
I'm taking notes.
Okay, all right. Other thoughts? Freedom is good, security is better. Do you agree with it or not?
I don't.
Why not?
No.
Because you never give up freedoms for a feeling of safeness, because it'll all come back to haunt you.
Okay.
I feel like security is better because, everybody kind of feels like that you need protection at some point, and you're going to need it. So.
Think about it like this, and this is just to kind of give you Thomas Hobbes' point of view here. Think about in a situation where you have 100% freedom to do whatever you want. Is there government?
Anarchy.
In anarchy.
Yeah, it's anarchy. And so what happens to your freedom in a situation of anarchy?
It increases.
Well, it increases, but it also does what?
It wreaks havoc.
It goes out the window.
Yeah, that's
In
true.
Walking Dead, right? You know, those people free to do whatever they want. There's
Yeah.
no government, but they're not free to do whatever they want. Any of those apocalyptic movies, you have to shut yourself indoors. And so there's a video, but I don't think we can watch the video
Why?
because I don't think it works.
We could try it.
You want to see?
Yes.
All right, well, we'll see. All right, so I might have to stop sharing and then reshare it. This might be too much for Zoom to handle. We'll see what happens.
In his book On Liberty, John Stuart Mill argues for one.
Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear this or not. You can? Does it lag at all?
No.
Not really, but a little bit.
A little bit? All right.
Simple
Not really, not really.
principle. It amounts to this.
Sure, it's fine.
My neighbors and everyone else should let me get on with my life as long as I don't harm anyone in the process. One way of thinking of this is my freedom to swing my fist and ends at the tip of your nose. If I don't have dependents, I should be free to drink myself to an early death, live as an eccentric, or explore alternative lifestyles, as long as no one else is damaged in the process. Paternalism is okay towards children, they need protecting, but never towards adults who are of sound mind. So let me get on with my experiments of living and you get on with yours. And even if I'm wrong about the best way to live, it's better to let me make my own mistakes. This individual freedom is the seedbed of genius. It's also the basis of enduring happiness for ordinary people. It needs protecting. Mill favors free speech, too, up to the point where it inflames violence. It's not just what you say, but also where and when you say it that matters. But merely causing offense, he thinks, is no grounds for intervention, because in his view, that is not a harm. He champions dissent because it keeps us on our intellectual toes and stops our beliefs congealing into dead dogma. We need a variety of views to think well. Censorship is the enemy of progress. Not everyone agrees, of course. Critics of Mill's liberalism think he went too far. Our lives are more enmeshed with others than he realized. And some speech causes deep psychological harm. Harm that can be as damaging as a fist in the face.
All right, so just kind of that idea that, you know, just freedom to swing your fist, but it ends at the tip of the other person's nose. Okay, so kind of continuing to stop this again. It seemed to lag quite a bit. Okay. Okay, so the question then begins, who possesses these rights? The U.S. citizens are the obvious answer. But do the rights apply to everybody? Who do they? Who is it debatable as to whether constitutional rights apply to?
Aliens.
Did you guys see that? Okay, so all persons, does it include aliens, right? That's the question. Meaning not actual aliens, but people who are not citizens within the country in which they live. So if you have somebody living in the United States who isn't a citizen here, do rights apply as much to them as anybody else?
No,
No.
Why not?
because they're not citizens.
Okay, but can they do or say or think anything that citizens want to think?
They should be able to.
Okay, so you're saying that people who live in the United States but are are citizens of another country should have all the same rights as people in the United States.
No, they're breaking the law.
Okay, well, okay, so illegal aliens, and then uh, aliens could be anybody. It doesn't necessarily mean illegal aliens. So if they're here legally,
No, that's
We're
fine.
here
Yeah.
legally, that's fine.
then that's
Technically,
fine.
we're aliens.
Okay. It's controversial as to when it applies. Some people would argue that it should apply to illegal aliens as well as legal ones. And then there's voting, of course, and that's a whole nother ball game. Korematsu versus the United States. This is a case you should have probably heard about in U.S. history. What was this case about? Bennett, is that you answering or typing?
That's me typing.
Okay. This was a case back during World War II. It was a case where Pearl Harbor was attacked, and that caused for a lot of racism towards people of Japanese ancestry. We took those people of Japanese ancestry and we placed them in internment camps. So that, I mean, that's the idea was, you know, that we did that for what reason? Why would we place people of Japanese ancestry in internment camps?
So if they were like spies and they were just trying to get information from the U.S., then like they wouldn't have any way to reach out.
Right. Yeah. So there was a lot of concern because all of a sudden these people of this ethnic group are on the radar screen. So, you know, if you're the United States government, how do you trust all these people on our West Coast? Is the next target California? There are a lot of people of Asian descent in California, even back at that day and time. And so the idea was place these people in internment camps and move on. And actually, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the United States in this case. They did not rule in favor of Korematsu. It's Korematsu down here. In that the idea was the United States had a right to ensure security of Americans, and so they had a right to intern people of Japanese ancestry. All right, so federal and state individual rights, Bill of Rights protects citizens from federal government, but this is leaving out something. State government is left out in this process. If the Bill of Rights applies to federal government, that means the state's government, that they don't have to protect people's individual rights. But the Constitution also makes sure that it does, and it does this through one, they all have their own Bill of Rights. So Virginia has its own state Bill of Rights, which includes basically a mirror image of what you see in the federal Bill of Rights, Amendments 1 through 10, but also through Amendment 14. What was one way that states, U.S. states, particularly U.S. southern states, did not protect people according to the federal Bill of Rights? Slaves, but even after that.
Former slaves.
Yeah, practices of segregation, Jim Crow laws and all that. And so the 14th Amendment ended up being interpreted in a way, once we get into cases like Brown versus Board, to protect those individuals. But before that, the state saw it as their right to interpret those the way they wanted to interpret them. The other one is the Due Process Clause. This was a no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, and property without due process of the law. And then the process of incorporation. That essentially means that all the amendments, Amendment 1 through 10, are all incorporated into the Bill of Rights. I don't know about you guys, but I am pumped for this draft coming up Thursday night.
Yeah.
What
I
draft?
think mine's taking Tua.
We are gonna take Tua. I think that's what all signs are pointing to. And there was a lot of talk about Herbert. That's not going to happen.
He's probably gonna go to the Chargers.
Yeah.
I was looking at some rumors though right now that Fournette might go to the Dolphins. They're talking about trading for him.
Yeah, the Bills and the Dolphins, I think, are front runners to get Fournette, which that would be okay. I think the Jaguars are in clear tank mode right now, so I don't think the Dolphins would have to give up much to get Fournette either. I think they could give up a 4th round, 3rd round draft pick and get him.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens because they've been looking at running backs in the draft. That one from LSU. Or maybe it was Clemson. I can't remember.
Sir, I've got work in like 25 minutes. Can I go?
What's that?
I have work in like 25 minutes. Can I head out?
It's your call, Bennett. You guys can come and go as you please on this thing. I mean,
I was just checking.
Yeah.
Do we need to turn in these notes or anything?
I'm sorry?
Do we need to turn in these notes like Blackboard or anything?
Whatever you end up missing, turn those in. That's kind of the policy, just to show that you guys have a pulse. I know that you've been here, so I'm fine with that. We are doing 19.1 as homework. It is posted on Blackboard.
Okay.
That's Thursday.
Okay. Bad.
Is this all the notes we're taking for today?
I think there might be one slide. If there isn't, then we can stop here. We'll see. But I'm thinking the Dolphins. I'm hoping that they get a left tackle, or just one of the. They're talking about trading up their 18th, the one that they got from the Steelers, and getting something in the early teens.
That was a dumb trade.
We need a quarterback.
Well, Fitzpatrick didn't want to be with the Dolphins.
Yeah, but he would have been the best player in y'all's defense.
Yeah, I mean, and it's ridiculous because we just traded him for the Tunsil trade. Actually, turned out to be pretty good. The one
But he was a clown too.
Yeah, because we got 1st round and 2nd round draft pick out of that.
Wasn't he the one taking the bong rips with the gas mask on?
Yeah. But he's a Pro Bowl tackle. I mean, he's really good.
Yeah.
The other rumor I've heard is that we might
he's
Deshaun Watson, but I haven't heard much about that recently.
I don't see that happening.
That we end up picking an early round quarterback and trading that early round quarterback for Deshaun Watson. That's my best case scenario. I wouldn't mind, people talk against it, but I wouldn't mind just selling the house to get Burrow. That wouldn't bother me.
That's risky though.
It is. But Dolphins need to do something ballsy. They never do anything ballsy.
Well, now that the Patriots on a decline, you might have a chance here in a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, they're talking about getting that Utah State quarterback, Love.
Oh yeah.
There's still some good quarterbacks available too. Newton's still available, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's not that good. He's overrated.
He was good in college, not in the NFL.
Jameis Winston has potential, but
Winston's still available too.
Yeah.
But he's just gonna keep getting himself into trouble.
Yeah.
He's high risk, high reward.
Yeah. I think that's it, guys.
Word.
We don't have any more.
It's good to see you guys.
So we're having a draft party at your house on Thursday, Coach, after class?
Zoom draft party.
No, in-person draft party.
Too many people.
Oh.
That's no fun. Maybe if it's only less than 10 of us, could we come?
I would totally, not necessarily with you guys, but I would totally have a party.
Because the Dolphins might actually be good.
Because this might be the only thing to spend long.
It's like the only good thing on TV too, since like the past month now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this draft's going to get crazy ratings.
Oh yeah, there's so many bets on there too. Like there's like increased by like 200% by like from last year.
Yeah,
that's because people just want to watch like new sports stuff. Because recently it's just been a bunch of like replays and stuff.
I was legitimately talking about going there with my brothers. We were going to go to the draft. obviously I didn't.
I think MLB is supposed to start late May, and they're just gonna play in like Arizona with no fans.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard about Arizona, but as far as I'd heard, they hadn't talked about a date. They said late May.
Yeah, it's probably saying like spring training. They're gonna do like 2 weeks of spring training, like middle of May, and then start like opening day June 1st.
Okay.
For a few weeks, and then like once it gets like July or August, we'll start opening up stadiums again. I think.
I sure hope so. I just want them to play something.
Yeah, something to watch for.
I'm sick of watching old games and getting excited about like ESPN documentaries that are coming out.
You watched that MJ one?
I've watched a good bit of it. They were mean to that short fat guy, the general manager, Jerry Krause.
Yeah.
They were assholes.
That's how it is when you're a world champ.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he brought a lot of it on himself, but holy cow! I mean, how do you kind of go head to head with MJ and Phil, especially Phil Jackson?
I can't believe he didn't make varsity as a 10th grade. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Coach Churchwell guarded Michael Jordan
Oh, really?
and fouled him.
I believe it. I think most people would have ended up fouling him, and that would have been best case scenario.
Dancing Bears.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sir. Have a great day.
All right, have a good one.
See you, Coach.
See you later.
All right, Coach.
All right. I'm gonna hear about that shit. I know I am.